Prepare to bask in unprecedented epicness, because today I'm going to reveal how to effectively prepare for a job interview. So how do you effectively prepare for a job interview, you may ask? Well, let me just demystify the answer to that inquiry right here, right now. First off, your resume should be impeccable. It should be nice and spiffy. It should be devoid of any defects. It should be devoid of any flaws. Make sure that you flaunt your utmost best credentials. You need to market yourself. You need to tout your merits on your resume. Your cover letter should also be impeccable. It should be devoid of a single defect. So make sure there's not a modicum of imperfections on your resume. Make sure that it's perfect and no facets, and make sure that it highlights your best attributes and your best achievements. Now, you also want to make sure that the resume is aligned with the job description. So hypothetically, if you're applying for a job in marketing, if you're applying for a job in sales, you want to be able to boast your marketing and sales experience and accomplishments on your resume. That's a little paradigm for you. Let's move on. What's the second tip? Well, you didn't make sure that you put on your utmost best attire. Make sure that it conforms to the corporation's attire. Make sure that you're following the proper protocol and procedure. So, for instance, if it's business casual, then you want to wear your utmost best business casual attire. If it's business professional, you want to wear your utmost business professional attire. Make sure that it's not wrinkled. Make sure that it's spiffy. Make sure that it's sanitized. Make sure that it's devoid of stains and blemishes, and never ever ever get it wet. You don't want it to smell rancid. So make sure that you look like you can be befitting for that position. In other words, you need to look the role. You need to put on the facade that you're hireable for the position, even if you're incompetent and inept and ungraceful. So put in your utmost best attire for a job interview, and make sure it's properly prepared beforehand, and make sure that it's aligned with the corporation's attire requirements. There we go. Moving on. Now, when you're doing the interview, make sure that you highlight your best traits and attributes. Make sure that you say what you think they want to hear. And before you conduct the interview, make sure that you read about the company. You should be knowledgeable about the company. You do not want to go in there and not know anything about the company. So it's imperative, it's salient, it's crucial, it's of utmost importance that you learn about the company before the advent of the interview. Now, when you're doing the interview, you should utilize your best rhetoric. You should punctuate how you'll be a better fit for the position than the other prospective job applicants. So that is crucial, and if you're an abysmal public speaker, then you need to hone your rhetoric and practice your public speaking skills. And you want to be able to be prepared beforehand. So if they have a common question, like what are your best qualities, you can say something along the lines of, I'm tenacious, I have grit, I'm determined, I'm the utmost hardest worker you'll ever meet, and my accomplishments corroborate my claims. Who else generates over 3 million video views per month without spending a penny on advertising revenue? Who else earned a 4.0 GPA and a doctorate at the age of 25? I'm just giving you some examples, but that's what you can say, something along those lines, as long as your credentials can back up your statements. But if they can't, then don't be duplicitous. Don't deceive a prospective employer. It could cost you your job at the end. So I recommend building up your credentials. You could do this through entrepreneurial endeavors. There's so many ways to generate passive income via online. You don't have to work for someone else, but that's a viable alternative if you want to go that route. But you could veer down both avenues by being self-employed and by working for someone else part-time. That's also a viable option that could provide you with some semblance of stability, because if one source of income plunges, you're still not financially screwed as long as the other job is somewhat stable. But the workforce is a precarious place if you have a real private sector job, so there's no guarantee that any source of income will last in perpetuity, so just bear that in mind. So to recap, to recapitulate, to summarize, essentially you should conduct your research about the company beforehand, assimilate as much knowledge about the company as you can so that you're well prepared and so that you sound competent and not incompetent. So the other tips, if you recall, were to put on your utmost best attire that's aligned with a corporation's attire requirements. The resume needs to be vetted by a professional. Make sure that it's highly edited. Make sure that it's devoid of a single defect, so there shouldn't be a single flaw in the resume. Same with the cover letter. The CV should be perfect as well. And on these job application documents, you really want to keep them simple. You want to keep them concise, and you really want to flaunt your best merits and your utmost best accomplishments. If something seems insignificant, then omit it from the resume. There's no need to keep it on the resume. You need to put your best foot forward. It's as simple as that. And you should really hone your rhetoric and practice basic answers for questions. Those throw some curve or curveballs? I think it's curveballs. Yeah, sorry, I haven't heard that word in a while. Yeah, those throw some curveballs when you get to the job interview. But try to always say what you think they want to hear. So put on the facade that you're the quintessential candidate, and elucidate why as best as you can. Keep everything cogent. Make sure that it's concise, and pinpoint your best traits and attributes. Explain why you're far more qualified than other candidates for the position. So maybe you could say something along the lines of, I'll work the extra hours. I don't mind working from home. I don't mind staying till 2 a.m. to get the job done. Or you could say something along the lines of, I have a 4.0 GPA if you have a 4.0 GPA. I have 4 degrees if you have 4 degrees, like me. And through my self-employed endeavors, I've been able to grow brands without spending a penny on marketing nor pay-per-click campaigns. I mean, if you're self-employed, there's a tremendous amount of skills and experience that you can offer to a prospective employer. So I apologize about this video being unscripted, unrendered, and uncut. It's just an impromptu video that was created extemporaneously. So that's my advice that I would bequeath to you. You could leverage it or you could neglect it. It's up to you. So let this all marinate in your mind. You can rewatch a video, rewind, or fast forward. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you're properly prepared. Make sure that you're diligent and studious about the job interview process. Don't slack. Don't loaf around. And once you get the job, then you could be a bit more neglectful, but I don't advise doing that. However, you just need to get your foot in the door, and to do that you need to put your best foot forward and be eminently prepared. It's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So I hope that you found this video to be fascinating and insightful, as well as enthralling. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye.